Ladies and gentlemen, are you or a loved one looking for mobility and accessibility solutions in Sudbury? Look no further than Silver Cross Sudbury. Silver Cross Sudbury is your trusted source for a wide range of mobility aids and home accessibility products. They're dedicated to improving your independence and quality of life. Visit their showroom at 760 Notre Dame Avenue or call them at 705 222 0700. Your independence is their priority. A huge thank you to Silver Cross Sudbury, more importantly to Dean and Chantel Jacqueline for all of their support of the Behind the Bench podcast all the way back to day one. We love you both.
From the cold of the north, where the stories begin, behind the bench, let the breakdowns roll in. Sports on the table, hot takes on the line, unbeatable banter every single time. Settle in now, let the good times last. You're listening to the Northern Ontario podcast behind the bench. Behind the bench. Behind the bench.
The BTB podcast has officially joined forces with SWSE, folks, and things are about to get a whole lot more entertaining. SWSE is turning up the volume on the E, entertainment, and launching a brand new YouTube channel called Sorta Local. It's all about fresh, local content, live streams, news shows, and the kind of fun, off-the-cuff moments you don't want to miss. And yes, the BTB podcast is coming along for the ride. You'll still get the same BTB show you love, but now on a bigger stage. Expect live streams from Wolves games, from our BTB live stage, on location recordings, guest appearances, and plenty of surprises. It's only the beginning, folks. More details are coming soon on as Sorta Local launches a new wave of shows and events celebrating the best of Sudbury and beyond. Subscribe to Sorta Local on YouTube and be a part of something new, local, and seriously entertaining. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have another special guest coming on the pod, coming back to the pod. I believe this is what, third, fourth appearance now, Tom?
More than that, I
Maybe
think.
More than that, fifth?
I think
Could
it
be
might.
4 or 5, maybe
Yeah.
4.
I was gonna
I
say
think it is 5 once a year, right? I think we
Yeah,
have one.
and I
at least once
honestly
a year.
Yeah.
think I think it might be the leading guest. No,
Might be a leading guest. Oh yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no idea. It's
The
always a
insider.
pleasure, though. Hey,
There we go.
the insider.
The insider, yeah. We'll formally introduce him, ladies and gentlemen. He's here to break down, obviously, the OHL trade deadline. We'll talk about our Wolfers and a little bit of Sudbury 5 as well. But let us formally introduce Ben Leeson, the Northern Insider. Ben Leeson, how we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good.
Fantastic.
Ben, another hectic OHL trade deadline. What was your thoughts overall of the deadline here?
As far as the Wolves are concerned, or overall in the league?
Overall in the league, yeah.
Well, it wasn't maybe as crazy as some of the deadlines we've seen. Certainly some big deals, but some teams got those out of the way quite a bit earlier in the year. They traded off some major pieces or acquired some major pieces, depending on which way they're going. And one thing that kind of jumps out to me about this year's deadline, and maybe this is related to the NCAA rule changes a little bit. You didn't see any of the first rounders from this past year's draft. As you know, they can be drafted in that window
Yep.
ahead of the deadline, and you didn't see any of those go this year at all. I don't know if that's because future planning isn't really kind of what it used to be. You don't necessarily know where some of those guys are going to be in a few years. Some of them might make that college jump, so that might have been part of the thinking there. But obviously, still some pretty big deals done, including a couple that the Sudbury Wolves pulled off, and definitely remade the team in a couple different ways.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, let's dive into it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ben. Leading up until the deadline, with the moves that the Wolves had made in getting Bronas and Frasca, as well as Lads was in the mix there as well. I was like, oh my goodness, it
We
feels like
thought they were going to
we
buy.
thought they were going to be in
Yeah.
another soft buy here.
Yeah.
Was that the feeling for you as well, or did you still have a feeling? We all knew it should have been a sell, and they obviously did that in the end. But yeah, was there any feeling that it could have been a soft buy from the Wolfers?
I think there was a chance that would happen. It was kind of always my feeling that if I had to put money on it, it was going to be a sell in the end.
Hmm.
And I think when I talked to Rob Papineau about it, he kind of said the same thing that was my feeling that just after adding a couple years in a row, they just had to do something to recoup some of their draft capital, get a lot of those higher picks back that they're going to need in the next couple years and and get some value too in terms of good young players for guys that aren't going to be back in the league next year. I don't know if they would have been able to add enough to, especially with where they were in the standings. I mean, they had that tough start, as good as they had played lately, and I think that's probably what made it a little bit tempting and made people wonder, which way it was going to go. Um, like I say, I wasn't 100% sure, but I think that was something that they just had to do while they had an opportunity to do it.
Right.
Totally
And
agree.
I wanted to ask you because we were texting back and forth, obviously, when all the trades were happening. Do we still believe that this team is good enough, even after giving up their best players, to make the playoffs and, earn the 7-8 seed? And I think that's a win-win, right? Like you were still able to retool the right way and the organization was still able to make the playoffs. So do you think that's still a possibility for this team?
I do think it's a possibility, yeah, because you look at a couple of the other teams that made similar moves. I mean, arguably Brampton and Oshawa, you could maybe say they sold even more.
Hmm.
Well, on top of what they had sort of lost already, right?
Right.
Brampton got hit hard by guys going to the NCAA, and Oshawa had some graduates, things like that. So those teams are going to be in tough to make the playoffs too. And I do think the Wolves, they're on a little bit of a skid here right now, but I do
Hmm.
think they'll compete. Even in those games last weekend. I mean, you guys were there. You saw they played pretty well with a couple
Yeah.
of pretty good teams. So they'll have some things to work on. I really do think that Scott Barney is a very good development coach. You look at some of the steps that some of these guys on this team have taken already, guys who are new to the league, who have really earned a regular shift now and are playing a pretty good role, and guys that maybe started a little more difficult but have come on a bit, right? And I think he's going to work with these kids and his staff and will help get them to a pretty good place as long as they get some goaltending. They obviously, you mentioned Frasca and Bronis earlier, something they felt they had to address, and for the most part those guys have been pretty solid. So Carson Charche too, of course, local boy,
Yep.
and yeah, and I think they're going to be in that mix for sure. I do think it's a possibility, and you can argue that they'd be in tough once they got in the playoffs against one of those top end teams like a Brantford or an Ottawa or something. But that experience can go a long way too, right? For those guys to just get a taste of it and learn what it's like and realize what they've got to do if they want to win a playoff series going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be honest, man. It was hard to see those two, well, those three guys go. I mean, absolute core pieces. And I don't know. You look back to last year. They do end up adding. If you end up maybe moving a Musty and not trading for Muse, maybe you're in a setup to buy this year. I don't know what's your thoughts on that take.
Yeah, that was maybe a possibility. You could say, Musty, maybe even a guy like Coach Adelic,
Yeah,
who would have been a nice add as an OA for a team. Um, I think a few different things factor into that. In hindsight, yeah, maybe the move to make would have been to deal Quentin Musty. The, there was a bit of an issue, of course, with him not returning from his NHL training
yeah,
camp for a while,
Yeah.
holding out
Yeah.
for a trade. I think that probably did affect his trade value a fair bit.
definitely.
That might have made it easier to get what the Wolves felt they or harder to get what the Wolves felt they should have got for him, right? So there was that, but yeah, you're right. They might have found themselves in a little bit of a different situation this year because you would have thought there would have been a lot of draft picks and a couple of young guys coming back in trades like that too. But I got to say, the players that they've added, I'm pretty impressed with so far, as in this small sample. I mean, Jason Lemieux's come right out of the gate, putting up points. Excuse me. Jensula looks pretty solid on the back end. I think he's going to be a nice physical defenseman going for them going forward. And of course, Adam Nemitz, who they didn't have to give up anything to get him at all,
Yeah,
and
those are the best ones.
World Junior caliber player. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a nice player. I think he's going to be a real good piece for this team going forward for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to break down the trades in full here, I mean, we have the Ferran and Villeneuve going to Windsor, like you mentioned, JC Lemieux, who looks great, and a slew of draft picks. And
Hmm.
we talked about it last pod. I think it was the best the Wolves could have done in that deal. I thought it was a great deal for them in terms of what they got back for giving up Ferran and Villeneuve. Were you happy with the return from Windsor?
Yeah, I think the Wolves got to be really happy with the return on that trade, and I think Windsor's pretty happy with it too because they got exactly what they wanted
Yep.
Yeah.
for their own playoff run. A couple guys that they're going to play hard and have great veteran experience and are going to be hungry too to finally win in the playoffs, something they haven't had a chance to do yet, right? But no, that's a nice package of picks. Does a lot to restock the cupboard for sure. And like you said earlier, it's tough to see those guys go. I mean, I've had the pleasure of covering them for 4 or 5 years in the league,
Hmm.
and always great to deal with all of them. Like classy kids who give you their time, whether they win or they lose. And it's trade deadline is there's a lot of mixed emotions with it, right? I mean, I talked to these guys, on the phone the other day. You could tell there's a bit of emotion in the voice at times there, and um, I've seen it in the past. Like I'm not going to say who, but I remember one guy one time he had been traded and he was going to contender, but he was upset, right? He was very emotional over it to the point where
Yeah.
he couldn't even talk to me. And so there's that other side of it, where you're losing some guys that are great in the community, great on the team, and everything like that. But like you said, it was the move to make, and now we get to see guys like JC Lemieux, guys like Adam Nemitz, and guys that are on the team already. Your Rowan Henderson, who was already wearing a letter at 17. Guys like that who are going to take ownership of the team and watch them grow and become those same kind of guys, and hopefully have some success in the postseason.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right too. These three guys, while Ferran, of course, was built into this community, but there's not two guys, I think, Tom, that embraced Sudbury. Like it's hard to come here as big time draft picks of Sudbury, and
And
especially
love
if
it
you've
that
never
much.
been here
Yeah.
before and love the town, right? So I think they embraced it a lot. But I guess moving on to the Walton trade, which ended up being the last trade of the deadline, a couple people, and I kind of argued it. A couple people weren't ecstatic with the return of picks, but I feel like one of those thirds can turn into a second, or they can make flips. And I think the addition like of Jensula, I mean, I love his game. A big kid that can play heavy. You don't see that. That's kind of a rarity now in the OHL. As well as that kind of nice mix that his brother's probably going to be a key part of this team as well. But yeah, I guess your thoughts on maybe the return there on the Walton trade.
I think it's a solid return. You're right. I know a couple folks would have liked to have seen another second round pick or two in that mix. Those are always highly coveted. I think you're kind of at that point, you're sort of the market is what it is. Not a lot of teams had a ton of assets left at that point. I
It's
heard people
true.
talking about Barry. Barry didn't have much in the way of draft picks left. A lot of people assumed, I think, Ottawa because they had a lot and they didn't end up spending a lot of what they had either. I guess they're maybe trying to hold that for the future. But I think under the circumstances, it's a pretty solid return. And I think you're absolutely right about Ula. It's funny. You look at the heavy sort of physical game he likes to play, and you look at a couple other guys. You got Finn Kearns, who's going to should be a full time OHLer. Well, it should be full time after St. Andrews College is done this year. He'll rejoin the Wolves. So, very physical player as well, hard hitting kid. You're starting to see more of that now with a guy like Brady Smith. I talk about guys who have made a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah, as he's adjusted to the speed of the league, he's starting to throw the body a bit more like he did in Junior A. And so you go out a year or two, and it could be a pretty physical and intimidating blue line back there, right? So
Hmm.
that's an element a team's going to need, especially in playoffs when you need to make it a bit harder for the other team, right? And I should say too about Kieran Walton. We talked about how good the other guys were in the community and stuff, and I don't know. He's maybe a little quieter guy in some ways than the other two, but I don't know if everyone realized just to what extent he really embraced Sudbury as
Yeah.
well and how much he loved it here. There was a little bit of talk the night before the trade that maybe there was a no trade had been invoked, and that was gonna keep the deal from going through. And I asked the team about that, and I think it was just a matter of he really liked it here and he wanted to make sure it was the right deal and sleep on it. And of course, he even told me about how he talked to Scott Barney, former Peterborough Pete himself, who
Yeah.
who was pretty familiar with Rob Wilson as a coach down there, and told him that he was going to be in good hands with him and stuff like that. But yeah, he talks about how much more he started to enjoy the game playing under Scott in particular while he was here in Sudbury, and I think that made it, again, you're conflicted, right? It made it hard for him to go, and he's going to be obviously probably have a huge finish with Peterborough, and they're going to have a lot of fun watching him. But I think it was once again the right move for this team to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And looking at Peterborough's side too, Ben, a lot of people question this trade in
Yeah.
terms of Peterborough Pete's fans. You know, you have such a powerhouse in Brantford, and you got Ottawa, who's probably just slightly better than Peterborough, and Peterborough maybe is looking for more of a bigger run in the next year. And trading for Kieran Walton is a big jump. Who knows if he'll come back as an OA? I think it's highly doubtful. I think we chatted
Yeah.
about that
Does
in the
seem
chat.
pretty
He's gonna have
unlikely.
Yeah.
160. He would have 160, 200 points if
And
he came back.
signed,
But yeah,
it's yeah.
but on Peterborough's side, I guess what do you think, Ben, on them kind of being? It looks like they're all in here for a run with the.
I
with
wouldn't have
Walton.
I wouldn't have guessed Peterborough either, Ben.
Me neither.
I was shocked with that, to be honest.
I was. It's a bit of a surprise. Yeah, like I had heard earlier that they were making a bit of a push for Villeneuve separately early on, but obviously that didn't happen. But it did seem like the more like as it went along, you heard more and more about how they're kind of motivated to do something like that. And you're right. I think maybe next year seems like a year where they could be like a first place team potentially. So maybe this seems a little premature, but I guess there's a desire to try and win in that building this year, and and get some fans in the seats. And um, I got to admit, I didn't necessarily see them as a clear contender, um, but we've seen that before with other teams where they pull it together, and they've obviously got a coach who's got experience, won an OHL championship 3 years ago, things like that. Maybe they don't have as many big names, but they do have some some pretty good pieces. So we'll see if they can pull it together. Yeah, a little surprised, but I guess Kieran Walton will be a big part of whatever they do, right?
Yes.
That's right.
And
That's
that
right,
player
big
alone
time.
can win you a round or two. So I know
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peterborough fans were on I was gonna say Twitter, but on X were they didn't really understand like the buy part of it. But now since he's played a few games, I think he had a shootout winner, and I think he dominated in overtime one of the other games. Like they're loving him now. So it's funny how hockey fans work, because they're like, why do we get this guy? And then
Yeah.
as soon as he's in the building playing for them, they're like, we love this guy. So
They love him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those guys all had great debuts too, right? Like
Yeah.
he had the goal, the shootout goal, and then the other guys had a huge game in that big win over Erie. So
yeah, 9-1.
everyone was yeah, everyone was probably pretty excited about that. So
Yeah.
you just to touch on Ula once more, I thought it was kind of neat. I actually wrote about it in my story that I posted last night, but you talked about his brother earlier, and I think the Wolves are pretty excited about what he brings as a prospect too, potentially next year. What we saw him in training camp, fast, skilled, he's got a good shot. Um, but what a neat little angle to it there that I discussed with gents last week was the fact that they both are wearing they both wore the same number this season.
Unreal.
So Patrick wore 88 when he was here as a call up, and now Jens is wearing it, and that was because he wanted number 7, which of course Gavin Yules has already. So he said, I'll just hang on to 88 and save it for him for next year.
Yeah.
Makes it easy on the trainers. They could just leave Eula right on there. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, exactly. But no, I think they're both really, really stoked about the idea of playing together and stuff. I think the whole family is. So
Yeah.
of course, he's still got to make the team, but it's been looking good for him so far. So
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, in the few games we watch, yeah, he's looked promising for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Tom,
and
mhm.
you got one?
yeah, I just had one other question because obviously it's now like you mentioned, Ben, like our 5, 6 time for you coming on the show. But I always talk about that run with Alex when a couple of years ago when we did have you on when they got Dvorsky and they bought. Even just talking to the management now and being so close with the team this year, it's like you remember that year and it's like we take it for granted, right? Like the only person left on that team now from when they got swept in North Bay in the second round, I believe, is Chase Coughlin. So, and you're looking like next year or the year after is going to be a full new team, right? So, just
Mhm.
exciting time for. It's hard for Wolves fans because even for us covering the team, like we were so bought into that how good that team was. But
Mhm.
now it looks like in the next couple of years, with the prospect pools that we have in the draft capital that we got this deadline, it looks like it's pretty promising. And obviously with the new arena coming, so um, where I was going with this is I just want to ask about any other new guys that you have liked this year that maybe caught your eye, or maybe in the years to come, because Alex and I talk about them quite a bit on our show. Like we even think Mason Walker can make a jump next year too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like a lot of what Mason can bring to the team. Obviously, tons of speed, can make plays at high pace, and he's shown a real willingness for not being the biggest guy
Yeah,
to throw the body around. To, plays pretty hard, and he's playing a bigger role this year too with Greater Sudbury in the Noge, and I think that's going to serve him pretty well as well to be more of one of their go-to guys than he was last year, right? So. Maybe we get a couple more looks at him with the Wolves this year too. But as far as guys that are fairly new to the team or have had a bit of experience, I'm actually going to be doing something on Parker Smith next week. He's actually being coached by Todd Bertuzzi down in Cambridge.
nice.
Well, they used to call it the Goge, but they took the J out, so I'm not sure we would call it the Go now. Anyway, they've only lost 4 games this year, 4 games all year. They've lost it, but he's had a really good season as a 16-year-old in that league, and I think he'll be a good piece for the team going forward too. I'm sure he'll probably be in the lineup next year. And as far as some of the guys that are here now, that that have taken strides, like I talk about some of the development we've seen from some guys. Even older guys like Artem Gonchar. I know he was an NHL draft pick and came in here as touted as an offensive defenseman, but struggled a little bit maybe on the D side of things early on, turning over pucks, but he has done a great job under this staff of becoming a really good defenseman in the OHL. And then you got some guys that are neat stories, like guys like Hudson Martin, obviously a son of a former Wolf, Neil Martin, but sort of a dark horse coming into training camp. I don't know if anyone really knew what to expect of him. Makes the team, and of course, I was happy for him to see him score his first goal in the OHL last week. That was a pretty cool moment. Um, Guys like that, I think even you see a guy like Vladimir Provorov, who was again a little more highly touted because of his huge numbers in junior and being Ivan Provorov's little brother, and a bit of hype that goes with that. And then, it was probably a hit to the confidence for him to sort of be struggling to produce early in the year. But I think last I looked, he's got like 7 points in his last 11 games, and the coaches are happy with how hard he's working. And I think we can probably expect him to get better and better as we go along too. So you're right. It's an exciting time, and it's fun to watch the way these guys grow and take ownership. And they seem to have a really sort of workman-like identity.
Yeah,
Guys like Rowan Henderson and Blake Clayton and Ethan Dean that have just been kind of dogs on that checking line, right? And those are some of the guys that I think are going to be looked to as leaders in this team in the future. And so that's a cool thing to see. As much as a guy like Nathan Villeneuve is a really good leader, he's a passionate player. but he's a bit of a larger than life personality, right? That's, he's in that dressing room and he's kind of the man. And now that he's moved on, there's a chance for someone else to find that
Yep.
voice, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the cool things that I like is when you watch a team develop is to see who emerges and becomes that leader and it figures out how to win.
I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Did you think the Wolves? Was there a feeling for you that they could have moved on from Gonchar? Did you think that was going to happen, or were they pretty content in keeping him around?
I never heard that anything that was like that was like seriously considered. I mean, it's a move that you could have made a case for, considering that he's an NHL drafted guy. He could really add something that teams might want, right? That offense from the back end. I mean, he makes some of the plays he makes, right? Um, and you don't know if he's going to be an overager in the league next year. Could be, but hard to say. So do you look to get some value there and then target somebody a bit younger in the import draft going forward? That I could see that case for sure. I think on the other end too, you've given away an awful lot of offense with the three guys that you dealt away, experienced offense, right? So maybe you want a guy like that who can help these young guys make plays, right? He's going to help drive the attack and help them on the power play and all that other stuff, right? So yeah, I guess you don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in the end,
yeah,
I think that was probably the way that the team saw it anyway.
gotcha. Okay, okay.
Let's.
Tom,
I want to ask about because obviously sometimes we forget, Alex and I, that we're a northern pod and we just talk about the Wolves 24/7. But just down the
that's right.
street, just down the street from us, the Sioux. Not down the street, far enough. Anyways,
Down the highway,
down the highway. The Sioux Greyhounds look fantastic, and
all in.
Mhm.
um, a couple trades obviously they made with getting Fisher and a few other smaller deals, but then obviously how good Reed's been for a prospect for them. He's got to go in the first round.
Carter George.
Carter George, sorry, yeah, that was the other one. But I want to talk about that kind of that gray area. You mentioned the NCAA rule. They got Kluche coming back from, going to school, but he's an OA coming back now. So, what are your thoughts so far on like how the Sioux's going to do? Obviously, that West is very good, and what's your kind of expectations for them? Because every time they've been in Sudbury and we've got the chance to watch them, I think they got a good enough chance to make a really good run in this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And yeah, there's going to be some big time competition in the West, teams like Windsor, Kitchener. But yeah, I think the Sioux's got a good team, some really good players. That was something they felt they needed to address too with their goaltending, of course.
Yeah.
And they did that, bringing in a guy like George. Had to pay a lot for him too, but I think it was the time to do it. You're right, Chase Reed has really come along. Of course, you got guy like Brady Martin. It's an impressive group, pretty deep, and they've sort of almost quietly become a really strong team over there, right? I actually
Hmm.
thought they might be one of the teams that would be in on a guy like Kieran Walton too, just because he seems to fit their style, right? The way their coaches operate. But even without, they've got a pretty good squad, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them take a bit of a run for sure.
Love it. I think the last time the Sioux and the Wolves made a deal was with Homer and Jack Thompson, Jim, no?
I
Might
think you're right. Yeah.
might be.
Wow.
Great trade there.
Great.
Ended up flipping Homer for quite a bit there.
Yeah.
To Windsor.
Yeah.
But one question I had for you, Ben, do you think like the rebuild period, and we know the pendulum and the cycle of the OHL is like kind of like a 3 to 4 year thing where these guys they sell and then pick up their draft picks and then develop and then year three of those that sell basically they're in all in once again. Do you think that's going to get shorter now? Like, is it going to be a 2 year period? Could it be a year and a half period now because of NCAA? Is that, kind of a thing you could see or a pattern? Like, that's what I think about Peterborough for sure in that sense. But yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it's a little harder to be confident that you're going to be able to do that in like say 4 years, right? That you're just
Right.
going to have everybody here and they're all going to be 19-year-olds and this is our group that we're going to take our run with. So yeah, I do think that as things even out a little more, you might see the NC because the NCAA has been getting with all these high end guys that have been going from junior hockey, overagers and stuff like that, that couldn't play previously. It's getting to be, I think, a tougher league yet for young guys to go as true freshmen unless they're really elite. So you might not see as many of those guys make that jump early as things go along, but I think a big part of it, and we're going to see it again and again, is I know the NIL money is going to be a big factor for high end guys, but if you want to try to keep the core of your team, I think you're going to have to just really run a really good organization and treat your players really, really well, and keep them have them in a situation where they feel they're going to be respected and have a chance to succeed. I mean, we've seen Kitchener do that with a couple of guys who came back from the NCAA and have stayed with the team. Could have gone back to school, but have enjoyed it there, have continued to develop, and they can maybe do that make that jump a little later now, right? So yeah, it's less predictable for sure.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the reasons we saw these teams hang on to their 2009 first rounders the way they did, and not make maybe some of those real all-in deals that way that we've seen in the past. Um, but I do think that teams that plan well and, like I said, treat their players well and have a situation where, and that's why I think something like the Vivino Arena is going to go a long way because facilities make a difference. Everything you have in your community makes a difference, and just the people involved. You got to have a strong staff, coaches that players want to play for, and of course now the thing is to try and have a bit of a track record of success in the postseason, right? I mean, it's something like you said, we haven't seen a lot of that here in a
Yeah,
while. They had a couple circumstances work against them COVID days, but we're getting well beyond that now, right? So it's time to try and put a winning culture together, and I think that's going to go a lot further than maybe some people think because it's never going to hurt a player to stay in junior hockey for one more year, really work on their game before they maybe jump to that next level, right? Um, and I think if guys are in a good situation, they're going to be happy to do that.
I agree. That COVID team, man, I think they had a strong team to win. I think that was the Chenier year, no, with Byfield and everyone. Am I right
Oh
with?
yeah,
Pekar, yep.
they had brought Chenier in for that 2020 year. I think they would have been even stronger probably the next year, with some of the 19-year-olds they had and the overagers back and Quentin Byfield at 18. It's hard to
Ugh,
believe we only got to see him 2 seasons here, right?
Crazy,
But
eh? Yeah. Insane.
you
Way to
make
think
you
unbelievable.
about it.
wonder.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
Where was I? Okay, I wanted to ask. Obviously, let's talk about who do you, like prediction wise. Alex and I basically talk about this all the time, like who we think's going to come out of the East and West, and basically every time we do pick winners, it's never usually the case. So, the East and the West, like it felt like each top four in each conference basically got guys loaded up, soft buy, full buy, and
hmm
basically the rest of the East and West kind of sold. So, kind of a unique year because even just talking with Alex, quite a bit with this, it's a lot of teams in the mix this year. It feels like it could be basically, like I mentioned, the fourth seed in the West that can win, or the second seed in the East. Like it's not a out and out the number one team in each conference gonna basically be contenders. So like, who do you think from each conference can come out of it? And yeah, give us your prediction that way.
well, I mean, it's it's not always a recipe for success to try and put sort of an all-star team together, but I
Yep.
think you got to look at the roster Brantford's got, and it's pretty hard to pick against them,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
coming out of the East. I mean, they've kind of got. I mean, they've got a good coaching staff. They've got they got a ton of really good players. Sometimes I wonder how they're going to find enough pucks for all those guys. But just an unreal amount of depth, and it should allow them to overcome any injuries or any other issues they have. Um, Ottawa, I think, is going to be strong for sure, and I think they're a team to watch out for a little bit. But it's hard for me to pick against Brantford just with all the weapons they've got over there. Um, in the West, I mean, I think I've got to maybe give Windsor a bit of an edge now. I like what they've added. I like what they already had. Another team that's really well coached. That's probably the probably my number one over there. But it's going to be really interesting. You see the guys that Kitchener ended up adding.
Yeah,
They obviously brought in a lot more than maybe some people expected them to. And the team no one even talks about is actually first in the conference right now is Flint.
it's unbelievable. We
We're
had no idea.
and
No
we're
idea.
still
I know that.
we're still so convinced that they're not going to do well in the playoffs. Like I think we're going to be totally surprised with how good this team is, and we got to see them Friday here at Sudbury. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that'll
yeah,
be interesting too. That was another team that I wondered if might take its own stab at Walton, because especially after they brought in Kevin He, who's a former teammate of his and a good friend of his, right? And um,
Yeah,
look
you know,
at
I
Ben
think
with the
that's what.
stats there. Wow, Ben, that was
Well,
good.
there.
connections.
Well, that was, and I think that was maybe another reason a lot of people thought Barry might, go in on him too, because he's like best friends with Kashawn Aitchison too, right? But
Yep.
they just didn't have the draft picks to make that happen. I don't think. I don't even know if they made a serious push really,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, Flint's obviously very good too, and like you said, there's just some really strong teams in the West. So that's what's crazy about it, though, right? You got the top four, um, you know, that added so much, and I
Yeah.
know you got to shoot your shot, but two of those teams aren't getting past the second round potentially,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. So we'll see, I
it's gonna be
guess.
fun to
Insane.
watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is
Hmm.
going to be fun to watch for sure. One more before we let you go here, Ben. We'll kind of kick it over to basketball now. The Sudbury Five have started their season and off to a strong start. Maybe just your thoughts on the team this year. I know a lot of new faces and kind of just the parity of this league is a lot of turnover all the time. But yeah, obviously some core pieces sticking around in Dwayne notice. But yeah, your thoughts on the Sudbury Five so far?
They've looked pretty impressive when I've seen them so far. I know they had a little bit of a, second half setback against Windsor the other day. It's been an interesting start too, because they had obviously had Keyshawn Bryant, who sort of
Yeah,
just came and blew everybody away in the first couple of games with the dunks and the playmaking and the speed he plays at, and then of course I remember saying to someone after that, I think it was the first game, like, I just hope they can keep him, right? And then sure enough, 2 games later, he signs a G League deal. He's gone, at least for now. Wish him all the best there for sure. But they do seem to have a deep roster. Some gritty guys like Dwayne Notice, like Charlie Marquardt, who have sort of helped establish that hardworking culture they have. Um, and I assume they'll probably look to add someone else here now that Bryant's gone. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But I think they're going to be a team that's going to score a lot, and they're probably going to defend pretty well too. They picked up Yaquan Lightfoot, who's former Defensive Player of the Year. I think that was a nice sneaky pickup by them too, a guy that's going to defend well in a lot of different situations. So I think as they sort of come together as a group, they get used to playing for a new coach and Joey Pudister. They should have a pretty good year. I still got to see a lot of the league. Haven't seen too many of the other teams yet, and well, there's always pickups like a Keyshawn Bryant, who you didn't really see coming necessarily, right? But I think they're obviously shown they're going to be quite competitive, and who knows, maybe they'll have a chance to go back to back, right?
yeah, it'd be really cool, really cool. Um, Thoughts on the Rock Monsters jerseys and the Rock Monsters in general?
Those are pretty fun. They kind of had like a '90s sort
Yeah,
of like a '90s Charlotte Hornets kind of vibe with the teal and stuff, right? But yeah, I think it's a neat idea. We've seen that with like NBA teams and teams in other leagues doing that and stuff. So I mean, it's obviously partly to sell some more merch too, right? But it's
yeah, for
it,
sure.
Yeah, oh,
it
yeah.
it makes things fun for the fans though, right? And so it's cool to see them trying different things like that.
You can give it to my dad next time you see him, Ben, because he thought Sudbury got two teams. And when the Rock
Expansion.
Oh
Monsters,
yeah.
yeah, he's like, have I been sleeping under a rock? Like, did we get another team? And I'm like, Dad, it's just like a one-off type of thing that they're doing. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
too good. Too good. Well, listen, Ben, thanks a lot for
Yeah,
coming on and chatting with us once again. Great
My pleasure.
breakdown as always, and we love keeping in touch with you throughout the year. So again, thanks so much for what you do for sports in this community. If we don't
yeah.
have people like you, nobody hears about the great stories going around here. So really means the world, and yeah, we'll be keeping in touch. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Same to you guys too. It's great to see you keeping on top of things and getting all this out to everybody. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.